To prepare your heart for the message, listen to As the Deer Panted, Jesus, Jesus, Jesus. There is something about that name. Turn your eyes upon Jesus, and our God is an awesome God.
Good morning to everybody. Lord bless you and keep you. Cause his face to shine upon you and give you his peace. That prayer is found in Numbers chapter 6. God told the priests to pray that for his people. What a joy, my brothers and sisters, to be alive. Martin Luther King says he wouldn't have wanted to live in any other time than the one he lived in. Some of us would have wanted to fly out of the time that he lived in. Turbulent time, trouble, death, oppression, injustice, all that. And he said he wouldn't have wanted to live in any other time but that. Because in that time, he was used of God, not only to clarify and to bring to the attention of the world, America, and its oppressive system, and its rejection of a part of its native people, or people, the nation, a part of the nation, people who have been brought here, worked, abused, and even today, they are still not seen as a part of this country. What a time it was for him to live. What a time it is for us to live today. I keep pondering the Psalm 23. Read it so many times and preached from it so many times. But every time I do a meditation on Psalm 23, the practical and spiritual riches of this psalm keep on impressing me and guiding me. The writer, I repeat, was giving his own personal testimony, talking about his personal relationship with God, his shepherd. And it's like he was bragging about it. If you get into that psalm and you can somehow be emotionally involved, he was almost bragging about his relationship with God. And remember this, that this poem was a part of their hymn book. And I would think that the song leader or the leader of the worship would refer to the writer of the song before they would sing it in service. I want to think that this song leader would have named the writer of this hymn every time. The writer was well known and loved by his people. I repeat, this song is his personal testimony about his relationship with God, started and ended when he died. Personally, I am enriched not only by using the psalm as the basis for our meditations these several Sundays, but to come to a new appreciation of David's deep knowledge of God, and how he allowed this knowledge to shape his life as a convinced, and get my word, convinced and committed God follower. I stress that word convinced because I think before we can be truly committed to God, we must be convinced that he is. Before we can truly committed to anything that God asks us to do, or any response to who he is, we must be convinced that he is whom he claimed to be. But as I read this again and again and meditated on this, I recognized that this man's relationship was very deep and solid. And it was so solid that even when he flopped morally, Psalms 32 and Psalms 51 reminded us of the depth of that man's relationship with God. He was affected, shaken. Yeah. Physically and spiritually broken by his failure. Physically broken by the hurt he caused the Lord. Psalm 51, while not dismissing the hurt that others have felt, said, Lord, this is against you and you only. I've done this wickedness in your sight. And there are evidences of his deep connection and respect for God, who he calls in this psalm my shepherd. The shepherd is his protector, provider, and covenant God. As a covenant God, he made the promise to take care of his people and revealed himself to be full of love, compassion, patience, fidelity, which is faithfulness, and forgiveness. Read again this psalm. Read it more than once. Notice the words and notice how it flowed. God of compassion, God of mercy, slow to anger, filled with unfailing love and faithfulness. That's the shepherd he's talking about. And he said, this shepherd leads him. We looked at that last week. Leads him. And again, I had time not just to preach it, but time to reflect on the term God leads me. God's leading was real. It was real. Lord is my shepherd. As a shepherd, he's my provider, protector, covenant God. He promised to care for me to be faithful to me, compassionate to me, to forgive me of my failings. He's my all shepherd, sufficient shepherd. He knows me, and I know him. He is, it is rather he who continues to sustain me. It is he who helped me physically and practically in every way. So he said he lets me lie down or rest in green pastures or meadows. Leads me to rest beside still waters, green meadows. He leads me and renews my strength and leads me in the right path to bring honor to his name. This was real for David, not guessed or imagined or his feeling, but on the fact of his encounter with his shepherd. He could well sing the beautiful song in our Christian circle today. It's real. It's real. Oh, I know it's real. I looked up and to see if I could find the author for this hymn. And all I was told that it's difficult to find things like that about this hymn. And all I know, though, is that the writer apparently was going through some doubts. But somehow, through the blessed Holy Spirit, he came to the final fulfillment that God is real. He is real and can be depended on, can be trusted, can be looked to. David understood this, lived it, and sought to encourage his fellow sheep, followers of God. One thing that came to my mind as I do this, and I say this not just to repeat myself, but when we started this service and Brother Paul took over the leading, and he implemented this section where we have a moment of testimony. My mind goes back to David's time. Imagine when this psalm was sung in church. I wonder how many people were there, gobbling up, internalizing the teaching of this psalm, came to church discouraged, came to church weighed down by the problems. And they left encouraged by the testimony of one of God's children, magnifying the Lord. I think it was he in one of the Psalms who said, "Oh, magnify the Lord with me. Magnify him with me." Don't you underestimate a testimony. Don't do it. Don't you do it. And the one thing that is great about a testimony is about the experience. Not anybody else's. It's yours. And when you speak about your experience, you are speaking that which is true inside of you, to you. You're talking about what happened to you. And I repeat, that's why David talked about my shepherd, not uttering anybody else's testimony. And I can be sure, just like today, it has become one of the favorite hymns. I don't know how many of you have hymnals. I don't know. We don't do that today, you know. I guess we use the screens and so on. And many churches and many congregations today, they have a what we call praise team. And one of the things I used to notice at Metropolitan, and I spoke to them about, praise team is not there to cut people out from worship, but to invite them to come into worship. So he said to them, if you're going to do new songs, invite the people and teach the people the song. We didn't come to be entertained by praise team. We came to have the church worship, and you ought to lead them in worship and participation. I wonder if this was not the case with Psalm 23. It became a beloved psalm. It became a beloved psalm for us today because we have been exposed to it. And we have been loving this psalm and reading it and internalizing it. But this morning, we're talking about going through the valley. That's not evident in the first part of the psalm. No. If he had stopped with verse 3, magnifying the Lord who leads him, perhaps a good way to stop. But we wouldn't have been exposed to the fact that he had his valleys. He had his valleys. And I deliberately chose that this morning, going through your valleys. And perhaps I'm talking to a congregation this morning who ain't got no valley. Everything is just fine. Everything is just wonderful. But David is so realistic. He's so true. He talked about going in the pasture, that God provides green pastures are provision for him, physical rest. Right? That's all. He said, no, there's a valley. He leads me. And here is the connection that I want you not to miss, is this, that when pastures are great, are wonderful, the sheep is there to feed because they have the grass to eat. When it gets dry, then the shepherd who is responsible for the well-being of the sheep has to lead them to different places where they can find grass. And I'm told in my reading that sometimes when they are leading the sheep, they have to go to high mountains and narrow passages. And in that mountain, they are confronted with two dangerous possibilities. One, wild beasts can attack them and run off with the sheep. Or bandits can attack them. I'm also told that sometimes the path becomes so narrow that the sheep falls over and go down the precipice. So, to call it the valley of the shadow of death is to promote the seriousness of this passage. And some writer says, in the Hebrew, it is darkness, the valley of darkness, not death. But notice also, he says, even though I'm going through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no what? Evil. Evil. One, he's recognizing the truth of the danger of the passage, the path. And I'm take a little time and look up what the word evil means, what it means. In the Hebrew, I'm told that it all has to do with that which can harm us. Misfortune, trouble, danger, destruction, or injury of any kind. Now, for him to say that, I will fear no evil, although he knows the possibility of these things, is he real? I fear no evil. When I started the talks on that, I reminded you that one of the things that the writers have promoted, some of the writers promoted from this psalm, is that in this psalm, there is no appearance of being fearful. And they are true. Though I'm going through the valley of the shadow of death, I won't let my fear take hold of me. I will fear no what? Evil. Immediately, as he said that. Immediately, as he wrote that, he would go on to tell us the reason for that. The reason for that. Because see, David is not giving us some kind of pulling yourself up by your own bootstraps or bragging about your strength and your energy, trying to impress people how bold you are. So no matter what happened, you are bold. Now, I have said it here and I will say it again. Even David himself, I cannot accept he being a human being, facing Goliath, and when he was facing Goliath, there was no sign of fear. I can't accept that. Because I don't think it is possible for any of us to go through life without having fear. If you are here, congratulations. If you are here, bless you. And I don't think when you read the word of God, the word fear is used over and over and over on the lips of God's servants. And the word fear was always used to those who were falling under the power of fear. Power of fear. Isaiah chapter 41. Wonderful verse, I think the first few verses. Israel was going through their oppression and everything was falling down around them. Isaiah spoke to them, fear not. Fear not. See, you don't speak to what is not. Are you following me? You don't speak to what is not. You speak to what is. Fear not. Fear not, fear not, fear not. Read through Isaiah, fear not. You come to Jesus and his disciples. How many times he had to calm them down? Fear not. Fear not. That sea incident, you remember, sent them to go over on the other side. Fishermen. And all of a sudden, a storm erupted. They're in danger of being drowned. The wee hours of the morning, somebody was walking on the water, coming. It was Jesus. You know the story. Got in the boat. Said, why are you afraid? We're afraid because there are incidents that drive fear in us. Are you with me? There are incidents that drive fear in us. You feel so great to go to the doctor. And he said, your blood test is not too great, you know? I had to do some tests. And before you know it, all kinds of things start to come in your mind. Mm-hmm. They're not there. And you are fearful. Fearful. Really fearful. And you know the danger of fear. Because when fear takes hold of you, everything seems to be a problem. Everything. And sometimes I want to tell you, the things you are controlled by that you're afraid of, sometimes they'll never happen. But when fear grips you and controls your mind, you can't do anything worthy and promoting the grace of God, power of God. So watch David again. Even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, evil exists. It's number one. Evil exists. I don't believe like the Christian scientists believe. They said evil is illusionary. There's no such thing as evil. The last time I looked and heard the news, what do you call that? What do you call what's happening in Israel? Kids are being blown to bits. Families are held, children are held, and mothers and husbands are held as hostages. What do you call the war between Russia and its neighbor? What do you call that? What do you call the injustices of this land? What do you call it? What do you call rape and incest and what do you call them? Is it illusionary? Is it? No. They are real. And David says, I accept it. There is evil. And although I'm going through the valley of evil, what he says going to do, how is going to handle it? I will fear no evil. Can I put a little spin on that? I won't let evil overcome me. I won't. Why? Because the shepherd is with me. The shepherd is with me. Let me make a point here. And please, if you want to write it up, write it. But don't forget it. Don't forget it. Your knowledge of God, I put it this way, your growing knowledge of God is absolutely important for you in this life. Because the more you come to know God, who He is the more you're able to navigate your way through all the stresses and trials of life. Well, there are some believers who commit suicide, isn't it? I leave you to ponder that and to ask whether they are still saved or not. I will take a whole next session to do that. But there are others who, although the world is caving in around them, they're still looking to God. Still. You know them. You know some of them. David himself, Job, some of the saints, in spite of what was happening, they were still looking to God. When you look at this, my brothers and sisters, what you're going to find is the testimony of David is that, yes, there are things to make you fearful. They are. Don't play Mr. Big Shot and try to impress people how you are bold and strong. I keep telling you now, when you hear me again, the world can't be fooled by us. They don't want to see this kind of macho, you know, attitude, big man attitude. They want to see your tears too, because you're human. You're human. You are human. And human cries. Whether you're a woman or man, you cry. How many tears David must have shed in those years when he kept running away from Saul after God had promised him he was going to make him king. But he never gave up. Kept trusting God. And one day it happened. You know, dark times are daily confronting us. Dark times. I am confronted by this dark time of America. Dark. Not saying that they've never had it before. I wasn't around, I've read about it, but I'm living in some dark times now in America. Dark times. I want to confess to you that sometimes I feel concerned and might be even on the verge of getting confused and fear. There's financial hardship here. Pressure. I wonder how many of you perhaps on the line and you don't say it. We are going through some financial hardship. There are others, physical challenges, health. There are a church that has health issues. Pray every day for them. We have health issues. uncertainty what my tomorrow holds. Physical death. Physical death. Right after the Hebrew tells us. It's an appointment. Death is what? An appointment. It's an appointment. It's an appointment. When my time is going to come, I don't know. I don't know. It's final. The thought hit me. I think it was yesterday, the day before. God has my name listed. And when my time comes, I'm gone. But I will fear no what? Evil. Thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff. Rod and thy staff. You know what the rod was for? To guide the sheep going through those narrow, dangerous places. And I'm told that when the shepherd touches that sheep, and when he touches that sheep, he calls that sheep by name. And the jittery that the sheep feels is taken away or subsided because the shepherd is leading. He's leading. The Lord is my shepherd. Again, if he's my shepherd, he takes complete responsibility for me. For me. Thou art with me. That's the way. That's the way. I wonder how many of these songs we have in church that are testimonies of people who, like David, encountered God and shares it or shared it with others. So, little one here, going to wrap up with a great song coming. Anywhere with Jesus. Anywhere. I can safely go. Anywhere he leads me in this world below. Anywhere without him. Anywhere rather without him. Joys would fade. Anywhere with Jesus, I can safely go. Point is, not alone. You are not alone. When you're tempted to feel that, step back and come to Psalm number 23. David testified. He's with me wherever I go. Why would Jesus ensure the disciples that he's with them before he left? Because he sensed their fear. I don't know what you're fearing this morning. It's real. Face it. Get on your knees. Tell God about it. Because your fear, when it grips you, destroys you in the long run. Confess it and trust God gives you victory. Have a shepherd who is with you. wherever you go. Amen.
I hope you were blessed by the message. Don't forget to like and subscribe and share this message with a friend. Thank you and God bless.